2012, I was on the interstate and my vision just went out. And I remember I screamed, Jesus, because there were cars whizzing past me. There were cars in front of me and as well as behind me. So I went to the doctor. He said that he thought that it was a disease called myasthenia gravis. It's Latin and Greek for grave muscular weakness. And so basically, the quickest way that I could explain it is your brain no longer tells your body what to do properly. There are problems with the signals. Things get mixed up. And so your voluntary muscles and your involuntary muscles no longer operate properly. There is extreme fatigue and weakness. You don't get tired as if you're sleepy, but it's a weakness in which you can't function properly. It causes slurred speech. It causes facial drooping. Your eyelids droop. You can no longer swallow on your own. You can't swallow food, it'll come out of your nose, can't swallow water. Just any of your muscles. We take that for granted that they operate on their own, but they don't. So basically, it's just extreme fatigue. But when this first started, I couldn't walk on my own. I would have to have a cane or even a wheelchair at times, but some type of apparatus to help me get around because I was too weak to function on my own. So my day-to-day, my mother would have to come in or her husband would have to come and lift me out of the bed because I didn't have the ability to get up on my own. And so it would start usually with medication of some sort, and it still does. But the difference is now I can get up and get the medication for myself, which is a blessing. I usually have to plan whatever I'm going to do. I can't do anything strenuous because repetitive movement causes weakness. And so I have to be very careful what I schedule, how long I'm going to stay out. I have to know exactly where I'm going to be almost at every hour of every day to plan medication. And when you have to live that way, you don't feel as free as you would like, but I do believe that God is, a healer, and you want it instantly, but sometimes, things happen moment by moment. You move from glory to glory, and it's a process.
This is going to be a testimony when Natasha is able to get up and walk, and she will soon.
I actually got bronchitis, and it turned into a really bad infection, and so I was rushed to the hospital because my breathing was very shallow. And the ambulance came to get me, and the scariest thing, basically when they got there, none of them knew what myasthenia gravis was. And so barely breathing, I had to educate the whole staff on what myasthenia gravis was. With them not being familiar, my medicine wasn't given to me at a proper time, and it caused different problems for me. And so mucus coated my lungs. And I remember pretty much passing out, and they were able to resuscitate me, but I actually died, and they were able to bring me back. I started to slowly regain my strength, but I was on a ventilator for approximately a week, I believe, but I wasn't able to breathe on my own for a while. They kept putting me on and taking me off. And so my family kept praying, we kept believing God. That hospital stay was the most difficult exacerbation I've ever had, and I would never want to go through it again. There was a time that I was extremely angry with God. I went to God, and it wasn't like a righteous indignation. I was respectful, of course. I have a reverential fear, and I said, Lord, I'm angry. And he said to me, you're mad at me because you feel that I haven't healed you yet. And I was so grateful that he even answered me. I said, what kind of God do we serve that he wouldn't care about your anger? He just cared about your pain. And that meant a lot to me. Without the Lord, I would have lost my mind. And so there's a scripture in Psalms 94:17, and it talks about, unless the Lord had been my help, my soul would have settled in silence. And so it goes on further in the verse, and it talks about, with the multitude of anxieties within me, your comforts delight my soul. And so there are so many fears and even the uncertainties of just being sick and having to modify your life. Without reading the word, I wouldn't have gotten this far. I was told that I had to stay the same, and I would never be able to walk normally. I would never be able to speak normally. I would just have to accept this and understand that I'm sick, and it just won't go away. And there are actually 3 diseases that I deal with. All 3 are incurable according to the doctors. But I have progressed. I'm able to speak to you and enunciate properly. I was able to walk in here and sit down. I have to find a way to laugh every day. I have my days when I don't want to be bothered, and I have a pity party. But I don't invite anyone to it but myself. But I don't bring others down. But I've had my moments, sure. But Worship has gotten me through because without it, worship keeps me sane. I've actually had to seek professional counseling because I had to regain the courage just to live and to function. When you have a modified appearance and my face, my eyes wouldn't open properly. So I literally looked intoxicated all day. I walked around looking drunk and high, and people would ask me, they would whisper, like, have you been smoking something? Have you taken something? And I would just laugh, and tell them no. But having a modified appearance, having to face the world that way, and having, people prejudge you or just laugh. People aren't as quiet as they used to be. They're not as silent. They'll just talk about you to your face now. But to hear some of the things that were said, I had to regain courage to face the world again. My hope for my life is to give God glory through everything I go through. The Bible teaches that hope deferred makes the heart sick, but when the desire comes, it's a tree of life. And so you have to focus on the tree of life. You have to remain hopeful in prayer. And that's so important. So I believe I've overcome so much, and I can't quit now because I know that there's a purpose.